What's going on, it's the RapNerd, and it is the end of the year, so being the horror guy that I am, it's time to list off my top 10 horror films of 2023. So start the list off at number 10 is Dark Harvest. This is a movie that got zero marketing, nobody knows about it. They even dumped it on Amazon Prime to just buy. You can't even stream it. But I've been anticipating this movie for the past 2 years, so when I found out I was releasing it in October, I ran to it and I rented it and I loved it. I think that it's shot well. It takes place on Halloween, so it has that atmosphere and vibe of the time. It's just a very fresh story with an interesting lore that I found myself enthralled with. It's about this town in the 60s that sends these teenagers out at night to go after this scarecrow named Sawtooth, and the person who can kill him gets to leave the town. So for whatever reason, people just stay in that town. And if that sounds interesting to you, definitely check it out, because the lore of it was interesting to me. I honestly feel like this movie could have been longer just to explore the many different things. I think the creature design for the scarecrow is pretty damn cool. I think the violence works. Like one scene, there's like a blood explosion that literally put my jaw on the floor. The world itself just makes for a very interesting movie, and it's sad that this film went way under the radar, so I'm here to talk about it, and it's at my number 10, called Dark Harvest. Check it out if you haven't. I think it only cost me about $5 if it's still that amount, but definitely worth the watch in my opinion as a horror fan. At number 9 is The Nun 2. This movie surprised the hell out of me, because the first Nun I did not like at all, but this one upped the ante, and this is what the first movie should have been. It's shot beautifully. It takes its liberties with the demon Valak. She is like on one on this one. This is what you expect to see from this character after seeing her in the first two Conjuring movies. It delivered on all fronts. I think that this is a great example of what you can do with higher budget fantasy horror films. Like, it just works so well for me from start to finish. I found myself enjoying it a lot. That third act goes nuts, which I like that fantasy horror films do that. Like, if you have the budget, go crazy, bro. Like, go all the way in, and they did it. So at number 9, I have The Nun 2. At number 8 is Megan. This was a great movie to start the year off with. It's been in my top 20 movies, period, since it dropped. I feel like it is a strong slasher, and the unrated version adds to it with the blood. It makes it hit harder, and this is a familiar territory that we've been on with, killer dolls, but I think it just ups itself even more since technology is what it is now. I believe like the 2019 version of Child's Play should have been more like this than that, and it just works really, really well. Megan has the charisma as a villain to be a new horror icon moving forward, and we're getting 2.0, I believe, so let's hope they can crank out another movie as good as this one, hell better, because I feel like there are a few key things that they can do to really go balls to the wall with Megan, and I hope they just release it as R-rated and just go ham. A super enjoyable slasher. At number 7 is Talk to Me. This is the A24 possession movie. I really love this movie for the concept, honestly. Like, it's something that we've seen before as far as demonic possession goes, but it's a flip on it, and to me, that's what film is about. Nothing is 100% brand new, but it's just about a director and writer's perspective to kind of change how we see things. And the fact that they made demonic possession feel like some drug for Gen Z, I thought was a dope flip, because that's 100% what would happen if kids could touch a stone hand and they get possessed, and for them it feels like a euphoric high. We would be in some trouble, and it plays out well. I think the characters here are all likable, and for the most part, the decisions are actually realistic decisions. There's nothing in here that I can be like, nobody would do that. So that's always a plus to me. Just the fact that it's a nice flip on what we've known, and I feel like it can create a whole different pocket and lane of this kind of possession. I gotta hold that to a high regard, and it's acted really, really well. So there's that wrong with it too. And number 6 is another one that went under the radar because I forgot what company this movie came from, but they didn't market it at all. It's called Cobweb, and this is another movie that takes place during Halloween. I don't think many people have seen it, so I don't really want to say what type of movie it is, because I didn't know watching it. I just was pulled in by the atmosphere, because it does hone in heavily on autumn, Halloween. There are a bunch of pumpkins. There are Halloween decorations, in places. Kids wearing sweaters and all that stuff. So it really is a movie of the season. And I don't want to spoil it. Like I said, it's one movie you should just dive into without knowing anything, because the less you know, the more it's going to work when shit gets crazy. And The performances here all are dope. I forgot the actress's last name. I think her name is Lizzie. She was also in Castle Rock season 2. Her performance here is similar to that, but just not as unhinged. Like she looks like she's like a woman who's trying to really keep it together. And her husband is Anthony. I forgot his last name, but he plays Homelander. And both of their performances are stellar in such a creepy way. And if you've heard about this movie or if any of that piques your interest, definitely give it a watch because I loved it. So at number 6 is Cobweb. At number 5 is this Christmas slasher that just released last month called It's a Wonderful Knife. Now this movie for me I loved it. I've seen it about 3 times since release. It's that special type of campy that I just love. It reminds me of the early 2000s. Like it puts me in the mindset of Black Christmas 06, and that's why I really love it. There's Justin Long in it, who's playing this mayor who was really putting on with his accent and who he is as a person. And I love the killer design. The name of the town is called Angel Falls, and it's like somewhere where it's really icy outside. You see the northern lights, and I just think that costume design just works. One thing about slashers is if you have a strong costume design and just a well-produced movie, you can make it work, because this movie just fires off in that way. It's super duper fun. It's a fantasy horror film that you kind of have to lend yourself to, because the main character makes a wish when the northern lights are in the sky, and she's kind of transported to another universe where she doesn't exist. So you really do have to lend yourself to certain aspects, because there are some things that aren't answered, and if that kind of stuff bothers you, you're not gonna like this movie. But for me, I loved it. I could bypass some things not being answered because the movie was just that much fun for me. So at number 5 is It's a Wonderful Knife. At number 4, it's kind of more of the same. Thanksgiving, again, another well-made campy horror film, and this one is well-made. A tier above It's a Wonderful Knife. It's shot well, and like It's a Wonderful Knife, the costume is just dope. Having that John Carver mask and the hat is so simple, but very iconic in my opinion. I'm glad we're getting another one. The kills are very inventive. I don't think the script tries any harder to be than what it is. It embraces all of the camp, especially in the 3rd act when things get crazy. And all in all, it's just a fun slasher film. I am admittedly a simp for slashers. That's my favorite subgenre. So whenever I see one that's well made, I'm gonna flock to it. And this one did not disappoint. It was everything that I wanted it to be. It wasn't too weird like I was kind of scared of. It was straightforward. What you see in the trailer is what you get, and I couldn't ask for more. I'm just happy to finally have a Thanksgiving slasher that I can watch every single year. Best Thanksgiving horror movie ever. And number 3 is The Boogeyman. A super duper good creature feature, a PG-13 movie that felt like an hard R, that sets the tone from the jump. The performances are all great, because that's really what makes the movie so good. Everybody in here is giving their all and committing to the trauma that their family went to, and you see it in every frame, in every scene that the actors really do their thing. It is a little CGI heavy in regards to the creature, but to me, it still works damn good. I love this film. Number 2 is Evil Dead Rise. It somehow combined the fun nature of the 80s with the seriousness of 2013, and just has a nice baby. And this, to me, is my favorite of the franchise. Still think 2013 is better, but this one manages to kind of be a little bit lighter, making it more fun and upping the rewatchability for me personally. Love the setting being in an apartment, so it feels claustrophobic. And then you add in some rain outside, so it really gives you the classic horror vibes that you want to watch horror movies in anyway when it's raining. It ups the atmosphere there. Only few issues with this film is that the way it kicks off is because of a kid being stupid, and that could have been avoided. This whole thing could have been avoided had they not did that. But again, it's something that you got to lend yourself to, and I lent myself to, but didn't take it out on me. And I believe the actress's name is Alyssa. She is the best Deadite put on film, period. Everything that she did, the way she talked, things she said, her mannerisms, her body language, it all just makes for a creepy but fun, good time. This movie just works, period. So number 2 is Evil Dead Rise. And number 1 is Scream 6. Despite the 3rd act being a little bit wonky in spots to me, where it almost turns into a super fantasy film, the first 2 acts are so damn strong, I can live with that. Because I don't dislike the 3rd act, but the first 2 acts make it cool. This is super serious, super brutal. The tone is set from the beginning. I think that this might be the best opening sequence in the franchise since the first one. Personally, the way that they did this was a double fake out, and really left me shocked in theaters when I watched it. I think Sam, I forgot what the actress's name is, really stepped her acting up, because Scream 5 I was kind of like, is okay. She's a little bit wooden, but here, all bets off. It's like she heard the complaints of people talking about her acting and just kicked it up a whole bunch. And honestly, Spyglass is stupid as hell for firing her because good luck. Icing on the cake is having it in New York and setting it in Halloween. I've always wanted to see more slashers in New York. There aren't that many. The only slashers in New York that I can remember right now from the 80s. So to have one now take place and embrace all of the New York tropes like the bodega, the subway, the college campus, in the city. I just love that they took full advantage of all of them things because it made this Scream unique to the franchise, and I love it for that. So those are my top 10 horror films. Let me know in the comments what are yours. If you don't agree with me, it's fine. I'm not dumping on your list. This is just my list. And let's have a discussion in the comments, you know what I mean? If you like this kind of content, be sure to like and subscribe. And if you already are subscribed, thank you. Until next time, peace. RapNerd Productions, no capping, that's word to mommy.